Here you see what has not been told until now.
When modern steel supercarriers patrol the Persian Gulf today, they sail directly over a submerged graveyard of shattered timber, ancient bronze, and lost treasure. This gold coin represents the scale of wealth that defined the Achaemenid Empire. For decades, royal gold, ivory, and spices moved through these waters to reach the King of Kings. But relying on maritime trade created a specific geographical vulnerability. To reach the mainland, every cargo had to pass through one narrow, sickle-shaped gateway. This map illustrates the concept of a chokepoint, or in Persian, chokepoint. Because the trade routes bottleneck here, whoever controls this narrow throat of water can block the empire's economy. In the 6th century BC, that control belonged to a coalition of seafaring tribes known as the Pirates of Erythra. They operated from the wild, volcanic islands scattered across the southern Gulf. These crews used fast, light raiding vessels to ambush slow merchant ships. They would strike quickly and then vanish into these mangrove channels where heavy imperial vessels couldn't follow. The extent of the theft was significant. Royal gold and precious metals destined for the palace were being diverted into pirate fortresses, hidden among the rocks. These island groups had successfully blocked the supply lines of the largest land military on Earth. Therefore, to break this siege, Darius the Great had to build a highly specific type of naval war machine. Darius needed a fleet, but to prevent pirate spies from seeing it, he ordered the construction of a shipyard hidden entirely inland. He established this base on the rugged plains of Borazjan. Heavily guarded by the Persian Imperial Guard, it became a site for a large-scale construction project that brought in naval architects from across the empire. The project faced a major obstacle. The shores of the Persian Gulf lacked the dense, resin-rich wood required for heavy warships. Darius initiated a logistical operation to fell giant Lebanese cedars in the mountains of the Levant. These multi-ton logs were hauled across hundreds of miles of desert tracks on massive ox carts to reach the shipyards at Borazjan. Transporting timber across a continent shows the value Darius placed on these trade routes. He was willing to move mountains of wood to secure his maritime borders. The Trireme, or Se Radifi, was a 120-foot wooden ship powered by 3 banks of oarsmen. Unlike lighter Greek variants, the Persian Trireme featured heavy reinforced timber decks to support elite marine infantry, including the Immortals. At the waterline, they bolted a heavy, solid bronze ram, often shaped like a lion or a bull. This component is a primary target for modern underwater archaeology in the region. Designed to pierce pirate ships on impact, a trireme hitting at high speeds could splinter a lighter vessel and sink it almost instantly. Darius had engineered a fleet of heavy ships designed specifically to guard the empire's maritime wealth. When the imperial fleet finally sailed south, they cornered the pirate coalition among the jagged islands of the strait. The Persian admiral used the shifting thermal winds of the strait to his advantage, trapping the faster pirate vessels against the coastline. The heavy triremes engaged the pirates directly, using their bronze rams to crush the light vessels against the coral reefs and red cliffs. Once the pirate ships were disabled, the armored marines moved through the shallow water to clear the island's strongholds on foot. This defeat broke the pirate blockade and allowed Darius to secure the southern trade routes, establishing a permanent Persian naval presence at the gates of the Gulf. Today, the seabed around Hormuz, Qeshm, and Borazjan remains a graveyard of sunken pirate gold, ancient timber, and imperial bronze rams. This map shows the exact coordinates where this ancient war was fought. It remains one of the most strategically significant locations on the planet. When you see modern naval fleets patrolling this choke point today, they are operating in the same waters where Darius first projected his power 2,500 years ago. History returns to the same battlefields because the geography of power does not change. Subscribe to explore more secrets of the ancient world. Over 100 heavily armored Persian triremes cut south through the indigo waters of the Persian Gulf, heading straight for a tactical bottleneck. A pirate coalition set a trap, tucking agile raiding vessels into the shallow channels around Qeshm, Hormuz, and Larak. The massive Persian triremes were built for the open channel. In these shallow reefs, their multi-ton bronze rams become a massive liability. This specific geography is about to turn into a massive debris field, leaving a trail of ancient warships and bronze weaponry hidden beneath the currents. The Persian navigator, Skylax, isn't sailing blindly into the coral. Instead of engaging, he orders the fleet to stall, waiting for the weather to do the work for him. By refusing to fight on the pirates' terms, Skylax forces the local fleet out of their sanctuaries and into a confrontation they aren't equipped to win. Skylax orders the fleet to drop anchor just north of Larak Island. The pirate coalition misinterprets the wait as hesitation and breaks their defensive lines to taunt the Imperial forces in open water. They've sailed directly into the Shamal, a ferocious, predictable afternoon gale that whips through the strait. Skylax was waiting for this specific thermal shift to change the physics of the battle. With the wind at their backs, the Persian oarsmen dropped their blades in unison. They used 3 banks of rowing power and the force of the gale to drive the triremes toward the enemy at maximum speed. The impact was catastrophic. The solid bronze rams slammed into the side hulls of the lighter raiding ships, splintering cedar and pine like dry twigs. These rams were shaped like roaring lions and royal bulls, heavy, kinetic weapons designed to fracture a ship's hull on contact. This collision point created a graveyard on the seafloor, where multi-ton bronze rams and shattered hulls settled into the silt of the Persian Gulf. Any pirate ships that survived the initial ramming were immediately caught in a secondary trap. The Persian Triremes featured custom-engineered elevated decks that gave them a significant vertical advantage over the low-slung raiding vessels. From these high decks, the elite Immortal Marines rained a continuous torrent of iron-tipped arrows down onto the open pirate decks, suppressing the crews before they could even attempt to board. Desperate, the remaining rebels retreated to the crimson salt cliffs of Hormuz Island, hoping the volcanic crags would allow them to wage a guerrilla war on land. But the Imperial fleet didn't lay siege from a distance. The low-draft triremes were driven directly onto the sandbars, functioning as specialized amphibious landing craft. Heavy wooden gangplanks slammed into the surf, and the Immortals marched out in a locked shield wall. They moved through the volcanic valleys with mechanical precision, clearing the rocky heights. This amphibious sweep proved that the Achaemenid Empire could now project its military reach from the heart of the Iranian plateau to the most isolated island sanctuaries in the Gulf. By the time the sun set, the waters of the strait were littered with the wreckage of the coalition, and the pirate strongholds were leveled. Darius solidified his control by building a permanent naval base and a network of coastal signal towers, creating a physical infrastructure for imperial oversight. He then mandated that every merchant vessel entering these waters carry an imperial safety pass. This transformed the Gulf into a regulated corridor, often referred to as a Persian lake. 25 centuries later, this narrow stretch of water remains one of the most significant strategic corridors in the world. Modern patrol boats and cargo ships now navigate the same geography that Skylax and Darius once fought to control. Beneath the keels of today's steel destroyers, the silent remains of that ancient fleet still sit on the seafloor. The high-stakes competition for this trade route was established 2,500 years ago, defined by the iron will of Darius the Great and the bronze rams of the world's first true naval superpower.